Hi, and welcome to A Considered Craft, a podcast about the choices we make as we make. My name is Jess, and I'm coming to you today from Encinitas, California, which is on unceded territories of the Sioux, Cherokee, and Iroquois peoples. I thought I would pop in today with a really quick episode about a project that I'm just kicking off that I shared with a friend this morning on a call, and she said, "Oh, you have to put that on your podcast." So here I am putting it on my podcast out into the world. And this is something that I'm calling an intentions blanket that really is a riff on a temperature blanket. And I wanted to share with you the approach that I'm using because this is a project I'm doing in collaboration with my partner, who is a very creative person in his own right, does not do fiber-related crafts, but has a real creative streak, and this is something that we thought might be interesting for us to do together. So I thought I would share it with you as something that maybe you could do either for yourself. I think this could be a very personal project, or it could be something you do in collaboration with a dear friend, a partner, a child, a parent, a grandparent, a best friend, something you could do in collaboration with someone else as well if you wanted to. So I'm going to explain a little bit about it and take you through an example that I hope will help bring it to life for you. So just briefly about a temperature blanket, if that's not something that you've heard of before or done before, essentially the idea with temperature blankets, which I've never made before, but I have friends who've made them or made riffs on them, is that at the beginning of the year, or whatever time period you want to use, you associate a color to a range of temperatures. So you pre-lay this out, and you can do it with as few or as many colors as you want. You could say if it's between, I'll use centigrade because it's easier, and frankly, I wish we would switch here in America, but if it's 0 to 5 degrees, maybe you use a light blue, and if it's more than 5 but less than 10 degrees, you use a medium blue, and you continue up and you pre-assign this color to each temperature range. So I've seen them. I think that's the most common way of doing things with this approach. I have a really good friend who last year did something that was important to her, which was about tracking her wake-up time with a number of things going on in her life and her sort of belief systems. Wake-up time was something that really mattered to her. And so every day she wrote down what time she woke up, and she had pre-assigned colors to a range of times. And then made a garment, made an object, not a garment, but she made an object out of this. And so I wanted to think about, in what way could I make something with that idea, but making my own spin on it? And so I'm doing this intention blanket, and I'll walk you through the example for my partner. Please don't get hung up on this specific example because it's highly likely it does not apply to you, but I think it does bring it to life and give you maybe creative license to think about different ways that you could apply it. So my partner, Matt, is a skateboarder. And he has an intention this year around not just skating every day, but around progressing a particular trick that he's been working on. So his goal, his big intention, is around progressing this skateboarding trick. So that's the big picture. And we were looking for something where, we already regularly talk about our interests with each other, and we're invested in our independent interests and sharing those with each other. So we wanted to deepen it a little bit. And so what we set out, we talked together about what it could look like on a given day with his progress towards this trick. So I made a column, and I wrote this out on a piece of paper that I will zoom in and show you a little more closely. But imagine a basic table, and for us, we have 7 different columns. And each column is something that could have happened that day. Maybe you can see this well enough as I talk. So the different states are in each column. So state number 1 would be, I didn't even skate that day, for example. And by skate, we're pretty loose about this. It could be he went in the basement and practiced for a few minutes. It could be he went out to the street and practiced, or it could be like he actually went to a park or somewhere where there's a skateboard ramp or things like that. It doesn't matter. It's just, did he skate? Was he on his skateboard today? And if the answer is no, then for that day, which here you can see this is January 1st, for that day, we would say the state was no skating. And we've assigned a color to all of those. And he used a color philosophy that he follows in another part of his life for the way the colors flow. And so this first state would be the color brown. So I've picked some yarn that I've just placed an order for, that is a beautiful walnut brown color. So it would get an X there. State number 2 is, for example, did he skate, but he didn't even try the trick that day that he's working towards. Let's say that happens tomorrow. It would get a little X here, and the color associated with that is a beautiful tan. It's actually called wet sand, I think. So, so the stripe in the blanket that day would be tan. And the next one is something like, I tried the trick and didn't make it and was a little frustrated. Like my mood was one of frustration. And the next state would be, I tried the trick, I didn't land it, but I stayed in learning or a more positive mode about it. And the next column would be, I landed the trick once. And the next column would be, I landed the trick 2 or more times. And then the sort of ultimate column over here is like, I landed the trick while in flow. So that's kind of a mental state for him, and it wasn't just a very intentional practiced, make the trick, but that it sort of happened in the flow of the rest of the run that he was doing, for example. So, this is a real push for him to go to this. So this is like a very exciting prospect to look forward to, and we think most days will be somewhere in the middle. But we will see. And he's already said that just having this intention, we've been working on this for about the past week or so together, just figuring out together how we wanted to do it. And he said that just having this intention and knowing that every day he and I are going to have a conversation about how did his skating go and did he end up trying this trick and how was that for him, has already made a change in some of the ways he was thinking about this trick when he was out skateboarding for the day. So, and he likes the idea of having like a physical object at the end that he can look at that represents his progress on that goal for this year. And I really like, he is not someone who, he wears a lot of hats that I've made him and some hand warmers, but like hand knitted sweaters aren't really his thing. And so it's for me a way to share in our crafts and loves and passions in a collaborative way. And a blanket is something that he would use. And, oops, sorry, plant. He does yoga every day, and, there's part of yoga that involves, just laying on the mat, and maybe that blanket will become part of his yoga practice next year, who knows. But I have a blanket I made that was not an intentions blanket, and I ended up loving it so much it actually travels with us. So I think a blanket can be an item of not only beauty and remembering your progress throughout the year, but I'm a fairly practical person, and this is a pretty practical object, I think, for many people as well. So I hope that whether you choose to do a blanket of any kind or an item of any kind of this nature, that just the idea of it maybe sparks something around a conversation with someone you love someone in your life that is trying to work on something that matters to them, and it's a way for you to bring it together with the craft that is important to you. I think I'm going to crochet the blanket. I'm mostly a knitter. I have some very basic crochet abilities, and I really love the way crocheted blankets look, and so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play around with it a little bit and see, and that's what we are doing. So I am offering this as a gift to myself to have that additional kind of connection with Matt, and I offer it as a gift to you in case it brings up something for you to share with someone that you love. Happy New Year.